All right, y'all, stop scrolling because what I'm about to tell you will have you clutching your pearls, throwing your remote, and maybe even side-eyeing your own spouse. Imagine waking up thinking you're the king of Huntsville, strutting around with that "I run this" swagger, only for your entire empire to crack faster than a cheap iPhone screen. That's exactly what just went down with Marsau Scott. Yes, that Marsau, mister. I've got it all together on reality TV. But, oh no, baby, the mask slipped and Latisha herself is the one who snatched it right off his face in front of the whole world. Can you picture it? A family meltdown so messy that even Carlos King had to step in and drop confirmations nobody was ready for. Now let me ask you this. What happens when the so-called perfect couple built on hashtags, brand deals, and reality show drama suddenly becomes the headline for betrayal, secrets, and family collapse? What happens when the receipts aren't just whispered rumors anymore, but spilled tea so scalding it burns through the internet? And better yet, what happens when the wife you thought was loyal turns out to be the very person holding the receipts? Buckle up, because this isn't just Huntsville drama. This is a train wreck in high definition, and trust me, you don't want to blink. Let's talk about how the illusion of perfection can crumble in front of millions, because that is exactly what we are witnessing with Marsau Scott and the storm surrounding his family. And if you thought this was just another reality TV spat, you need to think again, because this is the kind of chaos that makes people pause their own drama just to grab popcorn and watch. From the beginning, Marsau styled himself as the calm, rational, business-minded anchor of love and marriage Huntsville. The one who had it all under control while everyone else spiraled. But when you start scratching beneath the shiny surface, things do not add up, and it seems like the very image he built his career on is now eating him alive. People have whispered for years that Marsau always had too many side projects, too many late-night calls, too many convenient excuses about being away on business. And while Latisha was standing by him, smiling and defending her man, the rest of us were side-eyeing the inconsistencies, because how many construction projects can be in development at once before it starts? Looking like smoke and mirrors instead of real empire building. What we know now from the so-called anonymous insiders, and trust me, they are crawling out of the woodwork faster than roaches when the lights come on, is that there were strange paper trails behind some of those deals, companies popping up and vanishing with no explanation, and more questionable spending than a teenager with access to their parents' credit card. We are talking luxury cars rotating like outfits, vacation properties being renovated while half-finished business sites sit idle, and dinners that look more like meetings in disguise than casual nights out. The whispers suggest that Marsau was juggling accounts in ways that would make even a Wall Street hustler raise an eyebrow, and while nothing was proven in the public eye, the sheer volume of rumors alone was enough to create a cloud of suspicion that never quite went away. Now add to that the strange silence that always followed when people pressed him on details. Instead of clearing the air, Marsau had a habit of speaking in circles, dismissing questions as irrelevant, or simply moving on to another topic, like a magician distracting you with one hand while hiding the trick with the other. Fans remember reunion episodes where accusations flew and Marsau would simply smirk, sip his drink, and act as if nothing could touch him. But pride comes before the fall, and the fall is what we are watching right now. Latisha, who has always been painted as loyal to a fault, suddenly flipped the script when she went live. And whether that was pure raw emotion or a carefully timed revelation, the effect was nuclear. Viewers who once admired her strength now saw a woman on the edge. Mascara running and voice breaking, saying things that hinted at betrayal far deeper than what fans ever imagined. Her words carried pain, but they also carried confirmation. The kind of confirmation that gossip alone could never deliver. Because when the spouse who defended you for years finally cracks and admits something is wrong, the illusion shatters in a way no rumor mill can fix. It did not take long for people to connect dots that had been floating around for months. screenshots of alleged transactions, photos of suspicious meets, cryptic text messages that fans swore were tied to Marsau. And suddenly, the narrative shifted from idle speculation to full-blown scandal. Social media thrives on blood in the water, and this was a feeding frenzy. Comments flooding in accusing Marsau of double lives, secret finances, even relationships that had been hidden behind the curtain of success. And what made it even juicier was that Carlos King himself allegedly confirmed that something major was unraveling behind the scenes. Carlos is not the type to toss his name into chaos without purpose. So when fans caught wind of him co-signing the meltdown, it legitimized everything Latisha exposed. Imagine the perfect couple brand dissolving live in front of thousands. The empire built on appearances, showing cracks that reveal not just personal betrayal, but possibly legal and financial disaster. It was not just about marital issues anymore. It was about whether the entire image of stability was a facade. Whether viewers had been sold a story that was as scripted as any soap opera. And whether the FBI's tile rumors swirling were closer to reality than anyone wanted to believe. That is where we leave the first layer of this story. A family once untouchable, now under a microscope with every word, every rumor, every tear being dissected in real time. When the first shockwave of Latisha's live had barely settled the internet, did what it always does. It dug deeper. It pulled receipts, both real and fake. It hunted down whispers from neighbors, cousins, former employees, and even that one mysterious friend who always seems to know just a little too much. And suddenly, the scandal. That had seemed like simple family drama expanded into something that looked bigger, darker, and far more calculated than anyone wanted to admit. Because people began to uncover patterns in Marsau's business ventures that pointed to more than just sloppy bookkeeping. There were stories about investors who never got their returns, projects that swallowed money without explanation, and lavish purchases that were hard to justify on the salary of a man who claimed to be reinvesting every dime back into his empire. Insiders started talking about dinners at five-star restaurants that ended with envelopes being exchanged under the table, trips labeled as networking that conveniently coincided with luxury shopping sprees, and even alleged late-night meetings in hotel lobbies where conversations were hushed. But the photos leaked online told a louder story than words ever could. And the reaction was explosive. Fans who once defended Marsau with blind loyalty now split into two camps. One side swearing that he was innocent until proven guilty, and the other side convinced they were watching the unraveling of a Huntsville Ponzi scheme in real time. And as the posts circulated, people claimed to have screenshots of bank statements, with numbers blacked out but still large enough to hint at transactions worth tens of thousands. Rumors of offshore accounts swirled, alongside claims of shell companies registered under distant relatives' names, and one anonymous source swore that they saw contracts for consulting firms that had no employees, no offices, and no product, just names on paper meant to move money like puzzle pieces in a game. Designed to confuse anyone trying to follow the trail, the more details leaked, the more it seemed like a scandal worthy of a Netflix docuseries rather than a reality show subplot. And the public reactions grew more chaotic. By the hour, TikTok edits with dramatic music showed Latisha crying while captions accused Marsau of betraying not just his wife but the entire fan base. Twitter threads with hundreds of comments speculated about how long the FBI had been watching him. And Instagram Reels turned the phrase, "I just want him home," into a meme stitched onto everything from tea shirts to coffee mugs. The line between sympathy and mockery blurred as quickly as the line between truth and rumor, because the internet does not wait for confirmation. It builds its own story, and once it spreads, there is no pulling it back down. Meanwhile, whispers claim that Carlos King had hinted to close confidants that this was only the tip of the iceberg, that what fans had seen was just a fraction of what was going to come out in the days ahead. And that sent people into overdrive, searching for clues as if solving the case themselves. Latisha's silence after her explosive live only made it worse, because without her voice to guide the narrative, people filled in the blanks with their own Assumptions: was she protecting her children? Was she under legal instruction to stop talking? Or was she regrouping for an even bigger reveal? The questions piled up, and every time she posted even the simplest thing like a picture of her kids or a motivational quote, the comment sections exploded with speculation, people asking if she had left him already or demanding she drop more truth bombs. The family became a reality show within the reality show, a spectacle of real pain and public dissection. And while fans consumed every detail, there was an undercurrent of dread, because it was becoming clearer that this was no longer just about messy marriage drama. This had the smell of something criminal, something federal, and something that might pull more people into the spotlight than just Marsau and Latisha. As the days stretched into weeks, the scandal refused to lose steam. Instead, it snowballed into something far larger than anyone initially imagined. Because what began as a messy live stream of a wife in tears evolved into a national conversation about image power and corruption, and the whispers about shell companies and offshore accounts gained a sinister new layer when a sealed court document was mysteriously leaked online. Late one night, the names were blacked out, but the initials and timelines matched perfectly with Marsau's career moves, and the accusations inside were not small-scale mistakes, but serious federal charges, mentioning wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. And while no one knew exactly who leaked the document, it spread like wildfire through group chats, blogs, and gossip pages, until every fan with a Wi-Fi connection had seen at least a screenshot, and suddenly the story that had been fueled by rumor now had the weight of written allegations behind it. The internet erupted with fury, confusion, and disbelief. People who had once laughed at the memes now grew quiet, realizing this was not just tabloid fluff, but a genuine fall from grace playing out in real time. And the reactions turned more intense as fans demanded answers from Latisha, who broke her silence not with another live but with a pre-recorded video that felt cold, careful, and deliberate. She sat on a couch in dim light, looked into the camera without makeup or filters, and spoke slowly about loyalty, confusion, and betrayal without once denying or confirming the specifics. And that silence screamed louder than any tears ever could, because it suggested she too was blindsided by the scale of what was happening, and her words were replayed, dissected, and analyzed like they were lines in a political speech. Was she protecting herself? Was she distancing from her husband? Or was she simply exhausted from the scrutiny? The uncertainty gave fans permission to argue endlessly, and the family became a symbol of how quickly social media can turn personal tragedy into public entertainment. Meanwhile, Marsau remained behind bars with his lawyers, requesting bail only to be denied on grounds of risk of flight and unknown assets, and the optics of that denial spoke volumes to fans who already believed the worst, because why would the court call someone a flight risk unless they believed he had resources hidden away? The public fallout intensified as local news picked up the case. Talk shows invited experts to speculate, and gossip sites published timelines connecting every questionable transaction to moments on the show when Marsau boasted about his success, and the juxtaposition was brutal. A man who once posed as the picture of confidence, now reduced to mugshots, memes, and mounting allegations. And as fans debated whether Latisha knew all along or was truly blindsided, her every move became a clue, with people pausing her videos to examine background details like photos on the wall or documents on a desk, hoping to spot hidden messages. The family's brand partnerships reportedly started pulling out quietly, and sponsors erased posts featuring their names as the reality sank. In that this was more than just messy marriage drama, it was a full-blown investigation with national eyes watching. The final blow came when major commentators began asking not just about Marsau's guilt or innocence, but about the system that allowed him to project an image of success for so long without scrutiny, raising uncomfortable questions about whether reality TV producers ignored red flags for the sake of storylines, whether business partners turned a blind eye in exchange for profit, and whether fans themselves were complicit in elevating someone without truly knowing the man behind the image. It was no longer just gossip. It was a cautionary tale unfolding in real time, a reminder that behind every curated smile and every perfect family photo, there may be shadows we are never meant to see, and the scariest part was the lingering promise, whispered by those so-called insiders, that more was coming and no one was ready for the next chapter. So now that you've heard it, all the tears, the whispers, the leaks, the alleged offshore accounts, the denied bail requests, and the eerie silence that hangs like a cloud over this entire saga, the question is, what happens next? Because we are standing in the middle of a storm that has already shaken Huntsville, shaken reality TV, and shaken the idea that what you see on screen is anywhere close to the truth. Is this the end of Marsau's empire, or just the beginning of a much darker storyline? Will Latisha rise from this as the strong woman who exposed it all, or will she be dragged down by the same shadows that now threaten to bury him? And let's be honest, how much more do you think is going to come out? Because if insiders are right, we have not even scratched the surface. So here's what I want from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Marsau is guilty, or is this all smoke and mirrors? Orchestrated for ratings, should Latisha cut ties immediately or stand by her man while the world crumbles around them? Hit that like button if you want me to keep digging. Subscribe because you already know this story is not over, and turn on notifications because the next revelation could drop any second, and trust me, you do not want to miss it.